Welcome everyone to Planetary Workshop today. We're really excited to have you all here. We're going to be talking about how to deal with distractions with Dada Krishnasivananda. So give everybody a second to log in and connect with audio. We do have translation in Vietnamese with Sabod today, so we really appreciate him being here. So if you need translations, please connect with him. And we'd love for you to turn on your cameras. We love to see all your wonderful faces. So I'm just going to share my screen very quickly and go over a few things before we get started. All right, so we're here for the Planetary Workshop. We're going to spend just a few minutes just going over the welcome. Then we'll have 8 minutes of chanting using Baba Nam Kevalam, followed by guided meditation. And then we're going to have a dynamic, wonderful presentation for about 70 minutes, followed by a closing and some announcements. And just to remind everyone, and for anybody that's new to here, PLT is an inclusive community. We're a global community with people from all over the world and from people all walks of different life and people at different parts of their meditation path. So we really want to make sure everybody does feel inclusive. It isn't open to the public. And so we like to start all our live workshops and our live meditation with this quote by Sri Sri Anandamurti. It is our duty to accelerate the speed of human progress. Your endless efforts to broaden and smoothen the path of human movement will render our present existence and your future history inestimable. So again, we really want all of you to feel welcome. We're happy you're here today. Very excited about this. I'm really excited to learn more about how to deal with distractions. And so I'm going to pass it on to Karun, and he's going to start with our Kiirtan, so our chanting meditation, followed by a short guided meditation, and then we'll get right to the presentation. So enjoy. Thank you.
I'm going to sing this mantra, Baba Nam Kevalam. Many of you are familiar with this, but perhaps not all of you. And it means only the feeling of limitless love. So you can just sit straight and close your eyes. And my friend here is going to accompany me. I think you've all probably got your microphones off by default, which is good because I love singing with people, but over the internet doesn't work. So you're welcome to sing, but keep your mics off, please. And yeah, just sit straight and close your eyes, and we're just going to have a very short chanting and then silent meditation. keep your eyes closed. Sit straight and breathe through your nose if you can comfortably. And let the mantra Baba Nam Kevalam continue in your mind with the music. And just focus on the idea behind that, this feeling of limitless love. And connect to the source of love within you. And we'll meditate on that silently for just a couple of minutes. Baba Nam Kevalam, Baba Nam Kevalam, Baba Nam Just take a deep breath. And breathe out and relax, and you can open your eyes.
So welcome everyone. I think everyone is now logged in. So I hope you enjoyed your meditation, and I'm going to now introduce Dada Krishna Sivananda, and he's going to talk about how to deal with distractions. So thank you again, Dada, for joining us today, and we'll let you begin your presentation. Thank you. And I think Karun, you're going to talk about the document that we're going to be sharing. Thank you.
Yes. Dada will share his screen so you can see notes about what he is saying. We will also post a link in the chat if you would find it easier to look more directly on your own computer screen. While Dada is sharing, I will spotlight him so that if you're in speaker view, you should see him on a computer. At least you'll see him on one side of the screen and the notes on the other side. And you can slide a bar that's between those things left and right to make either him or the words larger, depending on what you would prefer. If you put yourself in gallery view, then you'll see more people, but you can do the same sliding thing. Please begin, Dada. I see your slides, so we are ready.
Namaskar, everybody. I think it's a problem we all have to deal with, how to deal with distractions. I've been meditating a long time, and I think many of you have also. But there's always new ideas that and ways of dealing with distractions that come up. And if we read the writings of our Guru, Sri Sri Anandamurti, on a regular basis, then you also come across lots of interesting and inspiring ways of dealing with distractions. So that's what I'd like to share with you today. I printed out, there's quite a lot of different practices. So I printed them out in a document so that you can have something to refer to if you found some particular things that you felt were helpful. And also, if you want to follow along, as I'm going through, because there's so many points I need to look at my notes also. So welcome. I kind of was under the impression that there might only be a small group, but it's bigger than I thought. So that's very nice. And I'm very happy to be with you on this occasion. So some of the things that I will cover are how to prepare yourself physically, how knowing your goal very clearly helps, how setting an intention at the time of doing meditation can help, the impact of attitude on your focus and concentration, and some suggestions about attitude, having realistic expectations, letting go, surrendering, that can also have an effect on your ability to focus. How clear you have an understanding of your what you are visualizing or what you are imagining in meditation. An approach to distractions of transforming rather than resisting them. And once you have a clear concept of what you're focusing on in meditation, it's still normal that you have distractions, but having a very clear concept of what you keep returning to, what you keep coming back to. And lastly, the role of mindfulness, memory in between the meditations. So let's get started. Preparation. So I think I'll go through this fairly quickly because I think most of you are practicing Ananda Marga meditation for some time, so I think these points will be fairly familiar to you. But practicing your yoga asanas on a daily basis creates the kind of relaxed, pleasant conditions that make it easier to focus. And of course, things like getting enough sleep, etc. It's going to be hard to focus if you're tired and burned out. Eating food that is calming for the mind. So if any of you, well, I assume that most of you don't have any problem with understanding what that means, But if some of you would like more explanation, then feel free to ask. Following the golden rule, the less conflict that you have with people, the less disturbance there will be in meditation. So trying to treat others well will definitely be a good basis for your meditation. Inspiring yourself through study, new ideas. If you're excited about something new that you want to try, or you just heard something interesting in your teacher's discourses, our guru's discourses, then that excitement can give you the kind of focus and interest. Or if you're studying regularly, you might very well find the answer to some of your difficulties in what you're reading. Keeping your environment fresh and clean, that has a big impact on how you can focus. And making sure that you have regular and sufficient time for your meditation. So scheduling that into your day and leaving enough time for it. So the next section is about goal. A good goal arouses excitement. So there's something called shraddha in Sanskrit, which is kind of a mixture between having respect and also enthusiasm, kind of a feeling of belief in your goal, that it's possible, and you really like your goal, you're excited about it. So if you have that feeling of shraddha, it's definitely going to help you to focus. And to develop that, there's some things that you can do. Rather than just sitting down habitually for meditation, ask yourself often, what do I want to get? Why am I doing this? And if you understand the why clearly, I remember once I received a letter from my younger brother with about 3 pages of his goals. And I was feeling a little bit lost at that time. And I thought, wow, 3 pages of goals. I can't even really think what my goal is at this moment. So I thought about it for a few days. And then finally I came up with one goal that I could relate to. And that was that I would like to get Nirvikalpa Samadhi by the end of the year. And that sort of motivated me and made me smile. And it made a difference. I mean, I didn't end up getting Nirvikalpa Samadhi by the end of the year, but it certainly perked up my meditation having that goal. I find it helpful to ask myself feeling questions, like, what would it feel like to never forget my mantra? For me, just saying that now gives me a sense of kind of excitement. And I think the reason is because something in me feels that that is possible. Or when you ask yourself a feeling question, it's not that you're saying, okay, this is my goal. It's more free than that. What would it feel like? I wonder. And that helps you get in touch with some part of yourself which does know the answer to that question, because part of you is pure spirit, part of you is pure consciousness. And when you ask that kind of feeling question, it somehow connects you with that part of yourself which intuitively knows that, or knows that state, because part of you is that state. So I found that, rather than, I must be like this, or I must be like that, or I must concentrate better, somehow it works magically if I just ask myself, I wonder what that would feel like. Perfect concentration, right? I'm not forcing myself, but I'm imagining that, and I'm connecting with the part of me that knows. And similarly, we get limited just by our assumptions that our everyday consciousness is what is normal. And if we ask questions like, I wonder what it would feel like because when we meditate, we're meditating on the idea that I am the divine, I am the infinite consciousness. But what would that actually feel like to be like that? So I like this question. What would it feel like to be everywhere and everything permanently, right? If that was my normal state of being. And I find that gives a kind of excitement and connection with the meditation. Then we move on to intention. A powerful intention helps to break through obstacles. So I like this story about a Dada when we were building our main ashram in Calcutta. The Dada who was in charge of the building was so busy night and day that when he sat for meditation, he complained that all he could think about was bricks and cement. So he asked our guru for help, and our guru said, well, are you doing your chanting before meditation? Are you doing your asanas? And various other questions. And he said, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing, but still I can't concentrate. And then our master was silent for a while, and then he said, before you start your meditation, remember the oath that Lord Buddha took before he got his realization. So I think many of you know that, but it's always nice to hear it again. So Buddha sat under this tree, and he already had learned all the techniques that he needed. He got all the teachings that he needed. He knew at this point that he just needed to go for it. And so he made a promise to himself. He said, I will not move from this position, even if my body crumbles into dust, until I achieve enlightenment. And then he reached his goal within 3 days. So Baba advised him to take that. And I tried that myself. And I found myself somehow connecting with those vibrations that are still hanging in the universe from that momentous event. And it just gives this kind of, how can I say, intention. You feel that power of intention, and that helps the meditation get started in the right way. When I'm already in the process of meditation, and I've come to the point of the meditation where I'm focused in my chakra, I'm saying the mantra, what I find, if my mind is wandering, I find it very helpful to tell myself this intention. I will keep returning to the mantra, to the chakra, to the thought of the infinite love, again and again, however long it takes, until I achieve realization of this meditation or realization of this mantra. I'll keep coming back. I'll keep coming back. Week after week, day after day, week after week, lifetime after lifetime. And just that sense that if I keep doing that, I will be successful. Somehow you have that feeling. If you just have 20 minutes, you won't have a feeling, what can I do? How can I succeed in 20 minutes? But if you know that you will do this meditation and continue it life after life, however long it takes, suddenly it gives you the confidence that you will ultimately achieve that. And once you have that sense of confidence, somehow it makes it more exciting, it makes it feel more doable, and it focuses the mind. Moving on to the next section, attitude makes it easier. There's a nice little Zen story about a young boy who was the son of the most important samurai family in the land. And he was the eldest son. And as part of his training, his family sent him to a monastery to practice Zen. And when he arrived there, he was very young, like 12 or something. And when he arrived there, the master gave him a koan, which is a kind of a puzzle, like what is the sound of one hand clapping? And he told him to meditate on this koan, and that he would review his progress after some time. So after a month of practicing this, he met with the master again, and the master asked him how he's going. And the boy burst into tears and said, I haven't achieved anything. I want to go home. And the master said, do one more meditation of 3 days. And the master was very sweet and kind. So the boy did another meditation and came back to see the master. And same situation, no change. I want to go home. And the master, still very sweet and kind, said, do another meditation. And then after the third meditation, or after the second meditation, when the boy had the same result, the master said to him, well, do one more meditation of 3 days. If you don't succeed, you should commit suicide. And on the second day, the boy cracked the meditation. So that's just a story about how attitude makes a difference. So one of the nice things that I find helps me with let's say I'm having, it's not that good a day and I'm having difficulty to concentrate, then I focus on, maybe it's not good concentration, but how lucky I am just to be able to have this opportunity to meditate. How lucky I am to be able to have such a wonderful mantra that I can repeat. How lucky I am that I can just have the chance to sit here and think about the divine. And somehow that feeling of gratitude helps. And I feel that my concentration improves when I have that, rather than focus on, oh, I can't concentrate, on, oh, I'm feeling bad. I just focus on what's good in the situation. So there was a line in our master's writing where he says that the divine Paramapurusha is constantly testing you to see whether you want him, or whether you want the divine, or whether you want worldly objects. And for a long time, that was kind of made me feel a little bit uncomfortable, because I don't know, a lot of the time I get lost, and I'm thinking about worldly objects rather than thinking about the divine. So I guess I felt uncomfortable because I'm painfully conscious of how much I failed that test. But recently, when I read that discourse again, I came across a different way of thinking about it. And that was that, when you have, let's say there's a video about a young person who's training to be a good swordsman, and they've got a master that they really respect and they really love, and that master is constantly training them. And of course, they're always losing. Of course, they're getting knocked down and so forth. But they like it because they love their master, and they know that their master is doing this with them in order to make them stronger. And they look forward to these training sessions with the master. So I began to see it like that all the time the divine is testing me with the intention of love, of helping me develop and so forth, that it's something that I should look forward to. And so when distractions come, now I think, oh, this is a test, right? And it makes me smile. This is my master testing me, right? And suddenly, instead of just a distraction, it's got a bigger picture behind it. It's a divine test. It's something interesting. It's something magical. It's an opportunity to have a game with my master. So when distractions are like that, okay, here's this test, and how wonderful that is. So now I'm going to have a little bit of sword play. And I wrote a little poem, you can see it there. What makes me smile as I stand in chains is knowing that every link is made of you. Right? So we have all our defects and limitations, but everything, we are taught that everything is divine. So are all these weaknesses and challenges and whatever. And if we think about them that way, it adds sweetness and it diverts your mind in the spiritual direction. Things which you have heard about a lot: cultivate a feeling of service while doing meditation, giving your attention to the divine. So, we receive so much from the divine. What can we give back? We can give this intention or this desire to serve. And our master said that having this feeling of service throughout your meditation creates, has a purifying effect on the mind and helps in concentration. So let's just take a second. I invite you to close your eyes and think of what you normally meditate on. The idea of infinite love, the form of your guru. And just have that feeling of service. And imagine keeping that feeling of service right from the very beginning of your meditation to the end of your meditation. Somehow this opens the mind. If you're thinking, I need some peace, or I need some concentration, or I need this, or I need that, then there's a kind of narrow focus. The narrow focus that I want to serve, I want to offer. I want to at least try and give my attention or contribute my calmness to the universe. Right? Then somehow it gives you a deeper motivation behind the meditation. Another one that I find helpful when I sit down for meditation is imagining myself meditating for millions of years. And somehow that puts me in touch with the eternal in myself and also takes away the feeling of rush. There was one man who asked a master, if I learn with you, how long will it take me to reach enlightenment? And he said 10 years. And he said, what if I really, really try hard? And he said 20 years. So this rush makes the result worse. So similarly, let's say you've got half an hour for meditation and you're having difficulties. There will be this kind of sense of panic that, what can I do in half an hour? But when you start the meditation, if you imagine yourself meditating for millions of years, somehow it gets rid of that half an hour panic. And, I'll just keep going. If I don't reach my goal in this lifetime, I'll continue next lifetime and next lifetime and next lifetime. Our master encouraged us not to see our lives in terms of just this physical life, but we should think of ourselves as the mind which continues life after life after life from one body to another, from the time it becomes a human mind until the time it becomes a liberated being. That is your life, right? Your mind doesn't die when the body dies. So Think of your life in terms of that and set the intention to practice life after life, however long it takes. Maybe you get it this life, but right? And that adds space, and it removes the sense of panic and helps you focus. I love a thing our master said, forget what you don't want. So don't focus on your, oh, I can't concentrate. Focus on what you want to go, where you want to go, or focus on the idea of the mantra. I am the eternal, I am the infinite. Remember your possibilities, forget your shortcomings. As you think, so you become. Moving on to the next section, a good beginning is half the battle. So those of you who practice Ananda Marga meditation, you have your second lesson, your Guru Mantra. The best time to practice your Guru Mantra is right when you start your meditation. Before you start your meditation, it will set you off in the right approach, that you surrender the meditation, the divine is doing everything. Whatever happens, good or bad, is an expression of the divine. And so you're already a little bit detached when you start, and that will help the meditation a lot. Another very interesting thing that I saw, which I tried practicing as soon as I read it, was that our master said that before you start the meditation, don't just, kind of jumble into it. Make a connection. When we do the Koshiki dance, we raise our hands up, and that symbolizes connecting with the divine before we start, right? So similarly, before you start your meditation, take a moment to connect. Who are you meditating with? Who are you meditating on? Feel that and connect. And the way to do that is to offer your namaskar. So feel the presence of the divine and offer your namaskar, and then begin. And you've had a proper beginning, and that helps set the tone. Another thing too, especially I say to new meditators, take a moment to just sit still. Don't jump into any technique or practice, just sit still. Part of you is the divine. Give it a moment to just be there, right? So just look inwards, connect with your own feeling of being and presence, and just sit with that. Enjoy sitting with yourself for a few moments, and then begin your practice. Okay, now we talk about the part of our meditation where we are detaching our mind from the world. So, as we know, human minds can't be in two places at the same time. So I know a lot of people kind of don't put that much importance on the first stages of their meditation, which are the technical aspect of how to withdraw your mind. But as long as your mind isn't properly withdrawn from the world around you, from your physical body, it's still stuck in the realm of duality. So how will you experience non-duality? You have to step out of that first. And in the first part of our meditation, where we step back from the world, there was something that in his instructions, which he gave to the acharyas, the teachers, I often puzzled because our master went on quite a long description of how planets and celestial bodies are not round, they're elliptical, kind of oval shaped. And then he also talked about the universe not being round and being elliptical. So it is very, very large, but it has some, boundary to it. And I thought, what an odd thing to talk about, but strangely enough, it helps if you imagine yourself sitting not on a shapeless planet or a round planet, but on an elliptical planet. And if you imagine the universe around you, not just as the universe, but as an elliptical universe, I don't know how or why, but try it. It works for me, and I find it somehow makes it more interesting and more somehow graspable, this idea that we're what we do in the first stage of our meditation. Similarly, in the second stage of our meditation, when we're withdrawing from the body, the instructions are move joint by joint. Right? And I wondered about that. And the thing is that if you're moving upwards, joint by joint, every time you take a jump up to the next joint and you focus there. And what that does is it pulls your attention into that point. So just by doing that, your mind will, as your attention gets pulled to that point, it will get pulled away from what is below or above it. And then you go to the next point, focus there and hold your attention, asana shuddhi, there. And as you hold your attention in that point, that will pull your attention away from what is above and below and focus it there. So it's kind of pulling it up stage by stage. Next chakra, next, and so forth. Spend some time there, and just that focus pulls it away. Right? You don't have to think about, oh, I'm pulling my mind away from my body or anything. Just that will happen by itself if you focus in that point, right? So don't make it too complicated. Just go up joint by joint, chakra by chakra, and hold your focus in the point. Now, especially in beginners classes, I kind of give a simplified version of this and explain that all distractions exist in some context. So if you're thinking about people or situations or work or whatever, the context is the world out there, the universe, right? If you're feeling problems in your body, then the context is the body. Feeling physical desires, then the context is your body. If you're thinking about, feeling bad about something you said or you did, or you're thinking about yourself in a negative way, then the context is your history, right? So if there was no universe, nothing in that context could exist. There would be no problem. If there was no body, then nothing in that context could exist. And if there was no history, then all those things associated with your past history would be meaningless. So what I suggest is, as problems or as distractions come up, imagine no universe, just love. Imagine no body, just love. Imagine no history, just love. And as you get rid of those layers of distractions, as they disappear and you replace them with love, that feeling of love gets closer and closer and closer until it's right there in your nucleus, at your center point, and you are totally surrounded by that. So the universe, the body, the history, everything is gone, and there's just your center, your essence surrounded with love. And when there's nothing, no walls and no, kind of suits of armor surrounding that essence, then you naturally feel this sense of dissolving and connectedness. So it's kind of simplified shuddhis, but it's also a way of dealing with distractions whenever they come up, right? Okay, let's move on to the second section. And And this is about concentration. So in our practice, we focus in a chakra, we focus in a point. And there were some discourses which our master gave which talk about the importance of this point. And it really struck me and had a huge impact on my meditation when I read these discourses. But the essence of it was that the point that you concentrate on is like the gateway between the material world and the spiritual world. On this side of the gateway is duality. On the other side of the gateway is non-duality. And why is that? When you're focused at a point, as I said before, that pulls your attention away from other things to that point, right? So just by concentrating in a point, that's pulling your mind away from the outside world, away from your body, and just down to one point. So the world and your body are the world of duality. And as you pull your mind out from that duality and bring it to a point, so you bring yourself to that gate, right? And only then, when you reach that gate and your mind has been detached from that duality, can you pass through the gate into non-duality. So when you focus in your chakra, think of your chakra as that gate, right? The gate between the material world and the spiritual world. And I find that thinking of my point in that kind of, it lends it a lot more significance and meaning and importance than just think of it, oh, I'm concentrating in a chakra, right? This chakra is the gate. I have to bring myself to this gate in order to pass through into the world of non-duality. So, and then when we are there at that point, and then we take the spiritual idea and we begin to repeat the mantra, then we pass through. And it was interesting that in another discourse, our master said that the mantra is what takes you through the gate, right? So the withdrawal practices take you to the gate, and the mantra takes you through the gate. And then once through that gate, you identify with the non-duality. Okay, so we move on to the section about ideation. As you think, so you become. So I said here that lack of clarity leads to spacing out. It's very important to have a sense of what am I meditating on. And a lot of people, who are just learning about or who want to meditate but don't have a clear idea of what they're doing, space out and even get into psychic difficulties because they don't have a clear concept of, they don't have a clear direction. They're just, kind of trying to think of nothing perhaps. And because the mind always needs an object, so when you just don't have a clear object, then and you detach, you close your eyes and you kind of detach from the world, you become open to positive or negative. If you're not focusing on something positive, then you can be open to something negative also. So it's very important to have a clear, simple idea of what you're meditating on. Because if you're confused and uncertain, then it will be difficult to keep the focus. So whatever it is that you meditate on, at least in this style of meditation, it should have 4 qualities: uniformity, simplicity, infinity, eternity. So by uniform, it means it should be consistent. It's like, say, if we take the example of the color purple. Right? So it's one even color purple everywhere, as far as you can see. inside, outside, past, present, future, time and space, right? So forwards, backwards, inside, up, down, in all directions, one consistent, even, right? And that consistency, that sameness, especially if it's something that you like, that's what gives the sense of balance and stillness to the mind. So sometimes we're in different moods. Sometimes you're kind of more detached and kind of in the stillness. Sometimes you're more devotional or emotional, and sometimes different sorts of moods. So if you're in a very bhakti mood, think all directions are, right? And if you're in a more kind of new agey mood, love is the only reality. A beautiful quote from Marianne Williamson that's helped me a lot over the years. So love is the only reality. And here it's helpful to apply that idea to everything around, but also to yourself, right? And the essence of yourself, the chakra, right? So that is also part of that only reality. So the chakra, the love surrounding it, everything is that same thing. Love is the only reality. So it's one unbroken reality, inside, outside. Or if you're in a, I grew up in Japan and Buddhism had a big influence on my life, so everything is empty. Sometimes you just, kind of in that more kind of detached, nihilistic mood, and it can be nice too. Then, moving on to the next section, identification, how to relate to the meditation more strongly. Okay. So I've talked about this a little bit already. How to deepen your sense of connectedness to the meditation. So I found these questions helpful. There was a scene in a movie called I, Robot, where a brilliant robot scientist commits suicide, and he leaves a suicide, he jumps out of a building and dies, and there's this, he leaves this small device which projects a hologram of himself. And there's a message calling a particular detective who hates robots. Anyway, the detective comes there and he sees the hologram and he starts asking it questions. And the hologram replies, I'm sorry, cannot compute. You must ask, my responses are limited. You must ask the right question. So finally he asked this question. He says, why would you kill yourself? And the image of the robot scientist replies, that, detective, is the right question. Program will self-destruct. Right? And then it disappears. So he doesn't give him the answer. He just gives him a question. And somehow asking the right questions directs you towards, what you need to connect with. And as I said before, the eternal is already in us. We just have to be connected with it, or we just have to be directed towards it. And these sorts of questions can help you do that. Our master said, everybody is moving around the cosmic nucleus, knowingly or unknowingly. But the day that the question, who am I, arises for the first time in their mind, on that day, that circular orbit turns in towards the center, right? When that question comes in the mind. So the question itself pulls you in towards the center. So taking time to ask these questions pulls you in towards the center, and you can ask them in your meditation. So one of the ones I like, I shared it with you already. I wonder, what would it feel like to be everything, everywhere, permanently? Right? Because we're imagining what would it be like. I am Paramapurusha, I am the infinite, I am the divine. Okay, so that's a word, but what does it mean, the divine? It means that consciousness which is present, which is everything, everywhere, permanently. What would that feel like? If you don't know what it feels like, think I am, I am that. Right? So I found that this kind of questioning and putting it into words, what is the, this qualities of the divine? What would it feel like to be that? And you can do it yourself in other ways. So it's some quality of the divine that will be more tangible for you than just saying God or supreme consciousness, right? Absolute happiness, absolute bliss. What would absolute, in one chapter of his writings, our guru says, Ananda is the divine. Bliss is the divine, right? So what would that feel like? Permanent, absolute bliss. Right? Something in you knows. Ask that question and you will connect with that part of yourself. Try expanding on the meaning of your mantra. So on the same theme. For example, instead of just I am the infinite, I am absolute happiness, I am universal love, I am permanent purity. Right? Oh, yes. And we often, because we are in our everyday state most of the time, we gradually make the assumption that this is who I am. This is my normal state. And the extension of that is that when we meditate, this is my not normal state. And after I finish my meditation, I will go back to my normal state. And that assumption is a very limiting assumption, because your normal state is something that is changing all the time. It's nothing permanent. And it's, will be different at the end of this life, and it's different at 100 times, different times during the day. What never changes is that permanent stillness, which is the essence of your being. And yet we assume that that is the temporary, I catch a little bit of that in meditation and I come back to my normal state. So that assumption in itself causes a huge handicap. So try reversing that. And when you're in this blissful state of meditation, especially when you have really wonderful moments, at that moment say, imagine this as my permanent state. What if I could be in this state permanently? And keep doing that again and again and again. And gradually you'll establish more a sense of an identification. Your sense of self will shift more to that permanent stillness rather than this constantly changing, very fluctuating, temporary state of, kind of daytime awareness. Okay, so here's a direct piece of advice from our guru about what to do when distractions come up. And he says, then and there, imagine that this is the divine. All right. So as each individual distraction or feeling or emotion or whatever comes up, that takes you away and makes it difficult for you to concentrate, apply the idea, this is also God. So anger comes up, anger is God. A feeling of desire for pancakes comes up, pancakes are God. Whatever, you're beating yourself up about something, whatever that is, laziness is God. So when you do that, it redirects your mind, so instead of thinking about laziness, I shouldn't be lazy or whatever, your mind starts to think about God. Remember, forget what you don't want, remember what you do want. So shift your mind in that new direction. All right, internet shopping is God. Okay, so many things. It will make you laugh, it'll kind of lighten the mood a little bit, but it's true on a deeper sense. If everything is God, so is every distraction. And you can lump them all together and say, distractions are God. And every time a distraction comes up, wow, it's just a little reminder to tell yourself everything is God. So you can see it as a, being a little bell that comes up and tells you everything is God, right? A very nice way of thinking about your distractions. So if you are attracted to something, if you have a strong desire for something, and that thing which you desire, obviously it's got some qualities that attract you to it. So if you make a gift out of it and offer it to the divine, you're offering something that you're attached to. So that's an important gift that has some meaning. It has much more meaning than something that you're not attached to, right? So the stronger the attraction, the more beautiful the gift. So true detachment, as our master said, is this taking your whatever it is that you desire and doing that practice of putting it into a flower and offering it to the divine with the same level of concentration that you do meditation. It's a very beautiful practice. So I think we could have a breakout, say 8 minutes, little discussion in threes. Maybe you could share about any of the points that caught your attention or felt meaningful for you, or anything that you had a bit of difficulty to understand. Okay, can we do that? Is that possible?
Okay, so the rooms are underway, and please find your way to one of them.
So you talk about any of these points that really meant something to you.
You have much information to absorb, Dada. I think the focusing on a point and then the mantra takes you through is one that's sticking with me. And
yeah, it was one of the discourses Baba gave in Ranchi Jagrati in 1969. So many amazing discourses at that time. And he said that the point is symbolic of Paramapurusha also, which was interesting. And then he also, there was one part where he said that if you take away the ethereal factor from the universe, it will become 1,000 times smaller. If you take away two of the other elements, it will become 1,000 times smaller than a mustard seed. And then finally, if you take away all of the 5 fundamental factors, then it's a point which has position but no mass. And then he says, in fact, the universe is nothing but a point. And I couldn't get that. That radically changed my meditation. I couldn't get it out of my head for at least 2 years after reading that. Yeah, and he said that it is possible to be free from all bondages on the spiritual level. But in order to do so, well, you cannot do that unless you can concentrate your mind in a point. Because the point is what pulls you free. You know.
Mm-hmm.
All right, welcome back. I hope you had a good discussion with each other. So I'll just say before we get started that there's so many points here, and I may run out of time and not be able to do them all, but download the document, and you can also contact me if you have questions about things. You know, you can email me or Skype or something, and if you have questions about something, I'm happy to talk about it. Okay, so the next section is called Moving Towards Rather Than Away. So our master explained that our style of meditation is moving towards something rather than some other types of meditation, which are kind of, you know, let go of the world, let go of all these things, let go of your desires and all that, which is kind of more backing off rather than moving towards something. But the mind, you know, if somebody is in love with something or has a great attachment to something, it's a positive movement that has a lot of strength behind it. So if we can focus our mind and develop that kind of attraction for the divine, then we've got this natural human movement and force which we can work with. It is very helpful. And this perhaps not so much for you, but for very important, because they often try to push obstacles away. So rather than doing that, focus not on the obstacle, but on coming back to your point of concentration. So keep coming back to your chakra, keep coming back to the mantra, keep coming back to the thought of infinite love, returning and returning, and the movement is towards something rather than trying to, you're always moving towards your object rather than thinking about the obstacles that you're trying to get rid of. And I wrote a little poem that about that feeling. I will return to you again and again, eternally, until no toy of yours can tempt me, no game of yours can trick me, and my mind is totally empty of any thought but you. Okay, next section, let go, let God. So sometimes, you know, if we have we're bothered by a weakness, or if we're bothered by some distraction, or if we're thinking about a mistake or things like that, we can get kind of locked into this battle zone with this thing. And it can become a very claustrophobic, limited space. And one of the most repeated advices that our master gave was, always remember that you are being witnessed by the divine. And this can be so helpful when you're dealing with distractions, because it breaks you out of that little bubble, right? So if a distraction comes up, the first thing that you can do is just have that feeling of being witnessed. It opens up the space, and because that feeling of the real subject, right? So in this issue with your distraction, you are the subject and it is the object. But imagine that little picture of you and your distraction is also being witnessed from a higher perspective by the divine witness. The divine consciousness is watching what's going on with your little battle, right? So the moment you turn your attention to that, you remind yourself that you're being witnessed, it pulls you out of that little bubble, and it kind of, it sucks up any intense emotion. Let's say you're feeling anger or something, just have that feeling, I'm being witnessed. And you'll find that that will suck up that feeling of anger, because it creates this huge amount of space, right? Instead of it being bottled up in this tiny area. So I find that super helpful. Then I like this story. It's a Zen story about a professor who was writing a book on Buddhism, and he went to see a master and asked him, can you tell me the essence of Buddhism in one sentence? And the master said, that's easy. No self, no problem. And try thinking of that next time you're debating over something, or kind of attacking yourself, or kind of struggling with something. Instead of trying to get rid of the problem, get rid of the feeling of the ego who you think is suffering this problem, which doesn't really have any permanent existence, right? In another discourse, Baba said that why should people worry about their success, their overcoming their weaknesses and overcoming their problems? If you just keep on doing your meditation, all of these things will eventually go away. Have faith, have confidence that if you just keep going, it will disappear. And I find that really helpful. If you just keep going, imagine maybe I can't deal with it today, but just keep on doing meditation, and sooner or later I will be able to. So otherwise you can get into a very damaging sense that, oh, this is something I can never overcome. Right? No, you can't overcome it today. But if you keep exposing your mind again and again to the thought of the infinite, the eternal, the omnicompetent, all-powerful consciousness, and every time you do that, you're being changed and made a little bit more powerful. Well, if you just keep on doing that, a day will come when there's nothing that you can't do. So rather than, thinking that I can never get over this, tell yourself, yes, just keep on doing my meditation, and little by little, each time I do it, the power will increase, and eventually I will be able to overcome it, right? And it's funny, when you have that confidence, somehow it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and just that confidence can, be enough to turn the corner. So make your best efforts, but trust the result to God. But don't forget the making efforts part. So we move to the next section, repetition and regularity. It's about priorities, right? Imagine that Maslow's triangle, right? Well, what's at the top of your number one priority should be self-realization. If it's not, you're never going to be able to achieve proper concentration. Everything else should have its own level of importance, should play a role, but it should be balanced in, that I have this dedication to self-realization or God realization, and everything else fits into that. So when that priority is there, then you'll find that you'll be able to focus better. Okay, so some of these things you're going to have to read later, but I think they're fairly obvious. We'll jump to the next section. Mindfulness in between meditations minimizes distractions. So what you do in between your meditation. So prevention is better than cure, right? So the more you can remember your mantra in between the meditations, the less frustration you're going to have when you do sit down to meditate. Okay, so here's a couple. I won't cover all of them. I'll focus on some of them, and some you can read. When serving others, Sri Sri Anandamurti advised us to say to ourselves, "Thank you, God, for appearing before me in the form of this person so I can serve you." This is a wonderful mindfulness practice, especially if you have to work with people a lot. Take that ideation before you start your service and be grateful for this opportunity to serve the divine in the form of these people. And it helps develop a feeling of closeness, of friendliness to people. And it helps avoid, the types of fear-based tensions that agitate your mind and then make it difficult when it comes down to do meditation. So if you take this ideation frequently when you're working with people, it keeps this kind of happy, friendly feeling amongst people, so that your mind stays relatively in a nice condition, and that when you do sit down to meditate, you don't have all these tensions banging around inside your head. Another one that I like, no good, no bad, just God. So keeping that even-mindedness, neutrality, see something as divine, and it will, everything we like or we dislike in varying degrees, and the intensity of that is what disturbs our mind. So if we train ourselves to constantly think and direct it towards ourselves also, no good, no bad, just God, rather than kind of criticizing yourself and criticizing others and creating all that, you can say, turbulence that makes it difficult to concentrate. Cultivate that evenness, see the divine in everything. In the same way, I came up with this little phrase, "Every idiot is me." I mean, sometimes we get really irritated with people, and I find it doesn't work for me to try to suppress that feeling of irritation. I should love the person, or I should be kind, or something like that. Acknowledge it. I feel irritated. I feel this person is an idiot. But every idiot, every person is me. We are all the divine. Everyone is me. And so it makes me laugh. It makes me feel a sense of closeness. I can see, my own faults in their faults. And somehow, even with very, very difficult people, it helps avoid the situation where, you push them away and there they are over there and I am here, and self and other. And that allows negative feelings, which will be damaging for your meditation, to come in. So this phrase for me cuts through those negative, or just replaces those negative feelings with friendly feelings. And I found I enjoyed it so much that I used it even for people who I don't think are idiots. I think they're very nice people, but just this, by saying it, made me feel this sense of closeness to them, which I found pleasant. You don't have to use that exact language, but I think you get the idea. And lastly, a little summary of life, I suppose, that if we understand it clearly, we all want to be happy, but what's the essence of happiness? And we all want to avoid pain and suffering, but what's the essence of pain and suffering? If we understand that in a simple, clear way, it helps. So I kind of summed it up like this. Remembering God, remembering the divine is bliss, and forgetting the divine is suffering. Well, I don't know about you, but that kind of summarizes my experience of life. When I remember the divine, I get this beautiful feeling of bliss and stillness. And when I forget, it immediately starts to disappear and becomes something else. So frequently reminding myself that helps keep me focused on what's important and gives me motivation to be mindful and to give time for meditation properly. So that's all the different areas. In the conclusion, I say that there's a lot of points here. Don't try to put them all into practice at once. Take them one at a time and work with it. So many of these points took me sometimes years to understand. Well, I might have read about it and I kind of didn't connect with it, but I came back to it many years later and could connect to it. Or I read about it and kind of had a vague connection to it, but when I practice it for many days and many weeks and many months, I began to understand what it meant on a deeper level. So there are subtle points, and don't expect to just hear them today and be able to put them into practice, or read about them and be able to put them into practice. It's something you'll have to go back, you'll have to think about it, you'll have to try it in your meditation, not just once, but many times, and then you'll gradually be able to understand it. So thank you very much then for joining me. I'm sorry there hasn't been any time. I would have loved to hear some of your voices and questions, but please feel free to contact me and we can have a conversation on Skype or whatever medium you prefer, or write to me and we can talk more. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you, Dada. That was amazing. For me, it was a game changer. So thank you very much for joining us today and sharing such incredible information. And I enjoyed a lot of your stories and ways of thinking about things. It really put a lot in perspective. So thank you again.
You're welcome.
So yes, we will definitely share the document. So if somebody didn't get it today, we will have it on our platform. And we can also give you Dada's email address. So if you'd like to contact him to ask questions, or like you said, to set up a conversation, that would be wonderful. And before you guys leave, I just want to make a quick announcement. Next week on Planetary Workshop, we're gonna, I think it was just gonna be very relevant because of today, what are chakras and why it matters, with Dada Vijayananda. So again, Dada Sivananda talked a lot about chakras today. So I think kind of going deeper into talking about what are chakras and why it matters will be a great follow-up next Sunday. So we hope you can join us. And please join us in the community this week. We're gonna talk more about what we talked about today and use some of the points from Dada's great outline that he shared with us. It's just really, really valuable information. So again, and before you go too, we have a poll for you to fill out. And we wish you a great morning, day, evening, wherever you are in the world. And we look forward to seeing you in the community this week and at our live workshop and our live planetary meditation next weekend. Thank you. And thank you again, Dada. Very much appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Namaskar.
Have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Namaskar.
Thank you for the feedback, everyone. We'll see you next week.